An example of being embarrassed by the truth. I was very much feeling like this. A Spanish clown, very specifically a Hispanic clown. And the reason why is I just had a few posts in which I was talking about this. Now, I don't know about you, but for me, growing up in a Puerto Rican household, things like this were not talked about. Christianity and things like that, sure. But anything having to do with voodoo, the occult, even if there were people who definitely practice these things in their life and kind of, things like that, it just simply was not something that was talked about. But I kind of grew up with a fairly, it was just around me. So I have, anyway, so the point being, recently I did something similar to kind of that, what you just saw happening in Nigeria. The difference is what I did was make this post.
Now that you have the full picture, I want you to understand that. You want to know wait. I said your store represents connection. And because of you, we're connected. You get what I'm saying?
All right, so that post is of this, includes this particular person. This person is called Toño Skits. Toño Skits, basically in that particular post, what I am doing is saying, hey, universe, would you, I wouldn't mind seeing Toño with Aventura. Would you make that happen if you could? Basically, this other God put these things together for me. So I'm offering this to another person and saying, hey, this is my offering. Make that happen. That ended up happening. Just last night, I saw a post from Toño and so he's on stage with Aventura. The post I did was on September 12th. That post from Antonio I saw last night on October 10th. So less than a month, he's on stage with Aventura. The point being is, I guess I have worked on my relationship with God and the universe since I was a child. So much so that these kind of things happen. I'm reporting it. To me, I feel like a clown. But when I listen to even my previous post, the facts are, I'm just saying facts. It's almost like a news story. On September 12th, me, Charlie, ended up doing, made a post in which it connected Toño Skits with Aventura. You can read more about it and have more about it, but that's what happened. And a month later, Toño Skits is on stage with Aventura. That's it. There's more involved. There's more to talk about. But it is as simple as that. And so the whole point of this particular post, because I'm not going to talk for much longer, is just simply about an example of being embarrassed of what the truth is, just simply the truth. One of the reasons I haven't wanted to post about things like this previously is because I'm not trying to be like, oh, come to me and I'll tell you, all the secrets and all these things. And because no, it's a very complicated thing. And even myself, right now, I don't know what to think of it more than it's so ironic all around. You know what I mean? Like very factually, a lot of the reasoning for that post is just wanting a friend to connect with someone in the world. And what it ended up doing was making me reconnect with myself and God, regardless of whatever other connection anyone else can, has from it. But at the same time, it is ironic in the sense because, I was looking for, or I was asking for a friend on earth, I guess, or whatever. And so the whole thing is just the point being of not, at least for myself, I'm trying to, I guess, take away from it to not necessarily be so afraid of talking about your truth. I guess, because even as I say that, I feel like I can contradict to myself, because one of the reasons I haven't talked about things previously is it hasn't been as number one, as quick or as clear as something like this, where it is what it is. Like, if anybody thinks I'm crazy or sounds like, yo, you're making way too big of a deal of this, whatever, let me know. That's the whole point. I have fairly good amount of confidence that I would know in some other way as well. But, at the same time, a very big part of this as well is the responsibility people themselves have to participate and have a relationship with God. And so, for me, this is part of that and fostering that and realizing that I know for myself, there's been many times I have been more afraid to talk about my particular relationship with God, simply because it seems to be very different than others that they what other people have, and certain aspects of it seems to scare certain people. I mean, I had a chaplain, like I have heart failure, so I met with a chaplain, the hospital chaplain, and that person seemed to be confused about what a relationship with God is, or not, at the very least, if not confused, because that's not necessarily accurate, at least had an understanding that my relationship with God was different than theirs. I guess that mine is things like this, where it's like, I'll throw it out there. Look, vamos a caer is the devil. Let's say it's the devil. This is devil shit. If it's a devil shit, then realistically, you got a lot of other worshipers. You got Toño, you have Aventura, you have a lot of people involved just all in that, because that would be part of it. You know what I mean? Like, I can't take away the fact that I did, no matter how you want to put it out there, whether it be to the devil or a God or whatever, did say, hey, do this. Would you do this? Because basically what it comes down to is, I want to see this. Donio wants to see this. If you want to see this, and that's the third factor there, along with a lot of other things. But, if it's either a good God or the devil or whoever, if you want to see this, then make it happen. So it could be that we're all, involved or more intertwined with a certain amount of evil more than good. That's definitely a possibility. But, it is what it is. At least for me, it's more difficult to if it is evil, from my understanding, evil likes to hide shit, and that's not what I'm doing. So, again, it's one of those things anybody wants to discuss, we can discuss. But that's that. Anyway, I just kind of want to go over that shit real quick, because I find it interesting. Like, Latin families, a lot of times, for many of us, at least the second generation, even though I'm not necessarily second generation, but we can feel a certain amount of embarrassment or not want to acknowledge that we have a certain amount of knowledge and or participation in some of these kind of things. And I do, from experience, believe it to be and know it to be at times harmful, because you're not really being your true self. You know what I mean? Just like, I haven't wanted to talk too much about these things because, I don't want to be perceived differently. But the fact of the matter is, if you don't get it, you don't get it. I mean, who am I to argue? Like, what am I to argue with? Like, what am I, again, like, other people may have things that they have knowledge that they could provide me with. But what am I going to argue? Like, on September 12th, you can see it. There's a post about God. There's another post about connecting people. There's another that includes Aventura. That includes Tonio's Kiss. That includes other things as well that I'm not kind of getting into. But and then a month later, he's on stage with them. That particular situation is also bittersweet for him because his brother had recently passed away. For me, in the sense of it's just for many reasons. Because, like, while I am happy that he appeared on stage that way and everything else, there's also indications that something's definitely kind of wrong, because it's bittersweet just for me as well. Like, I can't just be like, oh wow, that's great, and not have any at least other acknowledgement of other factors involved. So that's that. I've spoken now way longer than I wanted to, but at least 11 minutes doesn't sound so bad. So all right.